Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Unveiled Voices. We still have Mariam and Anifah here.
Hi everyone, welcome again.
Yeah. If you are here from previous episode and also the introductory episode, we are saying thank you very much for staying with us and also following us through on this journey. Would also like to hear your feedbacks or anything that you have to share concerning the last episode. And if you have not listened to the last episode, you should take a roundabout and go back to listen to the last episode. And if how was your week?
My week. It was good. So the last time I mentioned that I was, working on a project, a
Yeah.
new project at work, and yeah, it's going fine. Earlier on in the week, I had like some very challenging bits, and it turned out to be a very tiny bug, a tiny issue
Wow.
in the code, which I later figured out on my own, which is quite good.
Woohoo.
At the end of the day, like I mentioned last week, that I was also hoping to be able to like show the first at least version of something that works from front end perspective, like
Yeah.
connecting to the back end. And happy to say that I hit that sort of like first milestone.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So hoping this week will be, wrapping up and like finishing the project and then getting ready for something new as well. Um, Apart from that, I had a surprise
Yeah, the
from my friend.
surprise.
Yeah, the surprise. So it was actually two things. Like, so one of them was my friend did not tell anyone she had a driving test booked, and then she passed it. She passed it in one go, which is a big deal because most
Wow.
of the people I know, like in our circles, they had to do it twice or even more. So that was a good one. The second one was that because she knew like I had a bit of a tough last few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
she got me like a tray of small chops. Small chops, I don't even know how to explain it. How would you explain it, Mariam? It's like
Like pastries, little
it's like
pastries.
pastries,
But
small pastries. Yeah, then
like
we
Nigerian
kind
would
of like
just know it's puff puff and all of that.
exactly. So she sent it to me and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So again, I'm always reminded of the fact that I have great friends, and shout out to you, my friend,
French.
for sending me this surprise. May Allah reward you, and may Allah continue to make us good friends to one another.
I mean,
How was your week, Maria?
I don't know. I would say uneventful per se. Yeah, it just kind of went by. What did I do? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I worked from the office. Thursday, Friday, I worked from home.
You know,
Yeah.
I think I said during the week to you that you've been a bit, I don't know if the word to use is calm or subdued.
Yeah.
I was like, is everything good? Are you okay?
Maybe so in life you have ups and downs. No, well, not necessarily downs, but it was just
It's
like,
not a down, it's just a
yeah, like neutral. Let me just be and just breeze through. Yeah, so the week literally went like that.
Mhm.
So, and work was not as, maybe because work was not as hectic as I had anticipated.
Anticipated, yeah, because you talked about
Yeah,
the planning week or
yeah,
so, like
exactly.
1,001 meetings, I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, so it went really well. Yeah, the meetings went really well. I don't have any follow-ups, any fallouts. So yeah, I think maybe that was why it was relatively uneventful for me. So that's about the week. So today we have a sort of nice topic to discuss, and we would be talking around goal setting and achievement. So as Muslim women, again, there's the bit of where one, we really need to stand out of the pack, especially for those of us that we've kind of like chosen a career in the corporate world. So you really, really have to like stand out. And one of the things that would ensure that you stand out is you need to ensure that you have your goals set. You need to ensure that you are always constantly developing yourself personally, professionally, and all of that. So we'll be taking a stab at that today. We'll be sharing some of the things that have worked for us. Some of the things we also need to work on by ourselves because Nobody's perfect. Yeah. So like I've already mentioned, setting and achieving goals is a very crucial part of our personal development. I mean, anything you need to do, right? You need to have foresight about what you want to achieve, how you want to go about it, what are the things you need to do. And also these goals would eventually help you to find purpose and also like navigate your life. Anifah, do you have any maybe thing around goal setting? Like what do you think goal setting is for you? Like what when you think about goal setting, what does that mean for you?
Honestly, I think like for me, I've had this realization as I've sort of gotten older. Again, I'm not that old, but getting up there in age, I just feel like there will be a time in your life where you can just blindly walk into things and it
Mm.
just works for you. You know,
Mhm.
if I think about it, like when I was in primary school, I don't recall having to read that much. When
Actually
I
did.
was when I was, we'll come back to that. Because I feel you are in a different category. Even when I was like first studying the Quran, I don't recall having to like sit down with it and like it just came like naturally. Let's say like whatever we're taught in class, it would stick, right? Secondary school, similar vibes. Like you go on uni, especially year two, it now became so.
I need
I,
to.
I think the point I'm trying to make is that the older we get, or the more important our goals are, and the more other things are competing for our attention, it's
Mm.
almost counterintuitive not to be deliberate about what you want, right? And
Mhm.
not to say that, oh, okay, this is how I'm planning to do things, because you are just setting yourself up for like
Yeah.
failure, right? And
Yeah.
as Mariam said, for us, it's kind of like we can't afford to not put our best foot for. I mean, I would love to be in a world where like I can get by with just being very,
Yeah.
blase about everything. But the reality is that we don't live in an ideal world. And
No.
oftentimes, when you're trying to get into some of the rooms, you're trying to get into it either professionally, or when you're trying to better yourself in different ways, you just have to make that effort and go the extra mile. Not in just saying, oh, I want to do this thing, but in being deliberate about this is how I'm going to do this thing. In the 10 or so hours I'm like awake, or so, maybe more in a
Mhm.
day, I'm going to dedicate 1 hour to this thing over the course of, I don't know, a month, 2 months. So for me, when I think about goal setting, it's the fact that first of all, goal setting, or when you think about goals, it doesn't need to be just professional.
Mhm.
It doesn't need
Yeah.
to be about work. It could be about becoming a better friend. It could be about becoming a better sibling. Like, okay, dedicating time to call
Mhm.
your siblings every week, or be the friend that actually checks in on people. It
Even
could
being a
be.
better Muslim. Yeah. You're
Absolutely,
Muslim.
and we have a story about that
Yeah.
actually, which is still ongoing.
Yeah.
So it could also be like, okay, as a Muslim woman, I want to connect better to my Lord, like beyond what everyone else is saying. I want to have that personal relationship with God. So when we talk about goals, people think, oh, I'm studying for an exam, or I want to get a promotion at work. What about other things that are not actually, say, material? It could be a
Six farm.
complete farm as well. That's quite a popular one. So yeah, so when I think about goal setting, those would be like the rough thoughts that come to my mind. Like, it might not be as easy as it once was to do things. So you have to
Yeah.
be deliberate. And the fact that goals are not just things about the world. It could be more emotional, spiritual thing in the mind, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I'm curious, like, what is something you've done recently and you feel like you set the goal, you were
Oh.
very methodical about it, and at
Yeah.
the end you're like, okay, yes, I actually did this thing.
Yeah. So in the introductory episode, I mentioned that I work in finance, in a big tech company. So I have already close to 5 years of work experience in the finance space, and my current role is allowing me to see the possible intersection of finance and data analytics. So over the past 2 years, that's been something that I've been interested in. So apart from, because the general notion of when you say you're in finance, everybody thinks you're the number person, the number crunching guy. But that does not necessarily end at it. You are the finance person. You can steer the business by giving actionable insights, like making recommendations. Basically, you can own the end-to-end profit and loss of a business and guide the company towards profitability. And you only be able to do that by leveraging on data. So over the past 2 years, that's been something I've been interested in. So my 9 to 5 is, and my 9 to 5 business title or description is finance analyst, but there is actually um a role as a data analyst. So I didn't necessarily want to leave my finance space, but I wanted to see how I could leverage being in finance and also playing in the data analytics field. Um before So that was the shit I took for myself in the last 2 years. And what did I do about it? Because obviously I was still doing my 9 to 5 as a finance analyst, and I also wanted to learn and develop myself in data analytics space. So what I did was I set the goal for myself to say, okay, I will be in finance. I would see how I can leverage my knowledge in finance and also see what I can learn to bridge that gap towards being able to also play in the data analytics field. So I basically identified what are the things I needed to learn. So I identified I needed to learn SQL, structured query language. I needed to learn any BI tool. So I chose Power BI for myself, and I started learning on that. So because I had that goal for myself and knowing my kind of person, so again to go back to how I was in primary school, which you were mentioning the other time that you didn't necessarily need to read. So my dad had this notion, and it like grew with us over time, is if you don't read for one day, book will leave you for 3 days. So if you don't read something for one day, by the time you take it again, it's like you would have lost 3 days because you need to catch up on what you've not learned for one day. So I have that notion. Anytime I want to learn about something, I try to make it a daily habit for me, a daily routine for me. So because I knew I wanted to learn, I needed to develop my skills in BI. I knew I needed to take courses on SQL, on Power BI. I needed to be able to like solve problems in that space. And there is the 9 to 5 that I still need to do. So all of those were hectic. So I identified that goal. I knew my modus operandi sort of learning is I need to be very constant about it, like learning constantly every day. So one thing I did first is Twitter and LinkedIn is a very big space for like data analytics because you have everybody out there, everybody wants to share what they are doing. You basically can be aware of any development or whatever is going on in that space there. So one thing I did first was I created my social media feed to be that it would bring out things about data analytics. So in a day, just by randomly scrolling through Twitter or LinkedIn, I am learning something in that data analytics space. So that's one way that I used to bring myself to learn in that space. Then I also took courses. So on weekends, I was taking courses and I was learning Power BI, I was learning SQL and all that. Then also on the job, because I work in big tech, me being a finance analyst does not necessarily restrict me to being a finance person per se. So I was able to also help my team, my manager, that okay, I'm interested in BI. What can we leverage? Like, do we need to build dashboards? Do we need to create data? Basically putting myself out there to say, okay, I would learn. I'm learning on the side and I would also learn on the job. So I was learning the theoretical part personally, and I was also learning it practically on the job. So I did that for like about, I think, actively for like 6 months. Then in December 2022, I was just 6 months into learning. I decided to enter into an hackathon. Again, was just learning, still newbie in data analytics, and I was entering into a data hackathon. So I think one thing I would just pause to say here is yes, as much as you're doing, choose to bet on yourself and do it afraid. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Yes, I could enter into the data hackathon and not win anything. Fine, life continues. I could enter into the data hackathon and eventually win, which I did. And that's the interesting part about life, right? So I entered into the data hackathon in December 2022 and I won. Like I literally
What
won.
was the project about? What did you?
So we were given data about these causes of diseases in Africa. So you're supposed to clean the data, give recommendations on what based on data, like what are the causes you see, what are the recommendations, what are um trend analysis. So just basically making sense of the data and giving recommendation to the board over here. But that was basically it. And I entered into the competition and I won. And that was about like 2,500 people or so. So, and this was just me 6 months into my data analytics journey. So again, do it afraid. And again, because I had set that goal for myself to say I wanted to learn about this and I was very intentional about it. I was learning, I was taking courses, my social media space was created for that purpose and all of that. So I think that was one thing that I did. Again, to just sum it up, I identified what I wanted to achieve. I identified the processes and the paths that will take me there. And I did it afraid. I chose to bet on myself and I was able to achieve the result I wanted to achieve. So yeah, pretty much it.
Man, so what was your prize? Oh? Because we just heard you won. We don't want you win, oh.
In fact, December 2023, I entered it. Is it December? I can't remember. But so far, I've won two hackathons,
Oh
like
wow, where's
two
my
global
share of this?
hackathons. So
Where's my share of all
that's,
this?
don't worry. The prize, if you check on social media, you will see the prize. Yeah, so yeah, I did it afraid.
Alhamdulillah, that's a history. I think two things you said that really spoke to me was, first of all, you curated your social media. Like,
Yeah, because I knew I couldn't take myself off social media.
yeah, I feel like
So
a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm leaving Twitter," and I'm looking at them.
I
"Mm."
can't do that.
I mean, there's nothing you can do, but do you really want to? Like,
Yeah.
do you want to? And the other thing was, even at work, even though this was not like directly related to your role, or you
Mm-hmm.
still kind of raise it that, hey, I'm working on the, like I'm doing this thing. They're aware, and I can provide value in this way. I think that's
Exactly.
a very good way as well of like getting into things that are not directly in your line of work. So yeah, that's really
Yeah, exactly.
barakallah,
I
barakallah.
mean,
So are you still like involved in
yeah,
analytics?
definitely. So you remember one time I told you about a project I was postponing because I was just like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember you
yeah,
kept saying you literally said you were postponing this thing, and
yeah,
you knew, and you were like,
yeah. So off the back of that, I'm doing stuff for my team that are data analytics related. Again, they're basically using me for free, but I don't mind. At
they're
least I'm
both
getting
using each other, so they're using you to
I'm
do
getting the
something
experience.
that someone
Yeah.
else would have had to do, and then you are using them to accurate.
Exactly, exactly. But it's a win-win. They are
It's
using
a
me,
win
I'm
is a win.
using them.
Mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm still actively in that space as well. I'm still finance slash data analytics. So yeah, it's been going well. So I think that's one perfect example of a goal that I set for myself and I was able to fully achieve it.
Nice,
How
nice.
about you?
Okay, so I mean, there are a couple of examples I can think of.
Oshé.
I mean, not everything ends well, right? Wait, some things you pause, some things.
No, I would definitely give example of a goal that I set for myself and I branch.
So yeah, maybe to switch tracks a bit, right? The last time we were on, was it the first episode or the intro, where we were talking about Rukoya, right? And we
Yeah.
talked about going for Hajj. So even before going for Hajj, one of the things that I was just, this is me. I'm in my head a lot as a human
Mm.
being. This is just who I am. And I remember one day, I don't know if it was my husband I was talking to or if it was my friends. Maybe at different times I've had this conversation. And I was just thinking, like, we have 24 hours in a day,
Mm.
literally, as human beings. So for we Muslims, we do pray 5 times a day, like compulsorily, we have to. And I
Mhm.
was saying that, okay, at most, you spend what, 10, 15 minutes on the prayers. And then how much time is that? Times five. Sorry, my math is very rusty these days.
That's 50 to 5 minutes ish.
The-
Yeah.
Less than 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
Out of 24 hours. And I was
25.
saying that again, on this podcast, we make no bones of the fact that we're Muslim women, right? So we do believe in God. And it
Mhm.
just felt like, is that all? Like,
Mm,
for the one who created us, for the one who has blessed us so much.
mm.
We were born in the 90s, we're still here now. Honestly, we take so much for granted, right?
Yeah.
We take so much for granted. And I was like, is that all? So I was driven by this. Again, it could be God just calling me back to Himself, because sometimes when you drift away, and drifting away doesn't mean you are like doing bad
Completely
things.
away. Yeah.
It could
Just
just
days
be
of you.
your heart is not in the right
Yeah.
place, right?
Mhm.
So I just had that feeling that surely there's more to like that cannot be all. And in reality, as a Muslim, like it's supposed to be a way of life. It's not supposed to be, okay, I'm going to pray one bam, bye, see you next time, bye, see you next time. And these acts of worship are supposed to change you and turn your heart towards the good things, right? So I was talking to my husband, and he was even talking more about, oh, actually, babe, there should be like more to it. Like if you go to the bathroom, you're supposed to say certain stuff. In the
Mhm.
mornings and the evenings, you're supposed to
Yeah.
like do
Or
certain
yeah.
adhkar. And for people that don't know what is of God, like so there are
Mhm.
certain things you can read. And again, these are ways to kind of draw your heart back to this kind of tranquility and make you not be in the world so much, in the sense that you're always pursuing material things,
Yeah.
but you're also thinking about your internal state. So I had that discussion with him, and one of the suggestions he had was like, oh, we already belong to this community of Muslims anyway, why not just join the women when they do like their study together? I can't,
Mm.
there's a word for it. And I was like,
The
okay,
Arab ones.
yeah, I can't remember the actual word, but I said that's actually a good thought. Then soon after, I think we went for Hajj, and in Hajj again it was me, Rukoya, and two other people in the room. And again, me being the talkative as usual, I think I brought it up again that guys, like, I think this one even took a different dimension, because I was asking like, okay, we pray, our prayers are so focused on God give me this, God give me this on this earth, which is fine. We're on this earth, right? But how many times do we actually pray for our hereafter? Again, for people who are not Muslims, like we believe in the hereafter, and we believe literally that everything you do in this world, you're gonna reap your rewards, right?
Definitely.
Exactly. So how many times do you pray that, okay, God make my hereafter better? Or like
Yeah.
how how many times do you pray for God to improve the quality of how you even connect to Him, right? But you're praying to God to help you and your husband's relationship be the best thing, the most romantic. You're praying to have the best job that pays you what, 6 figures and all. So it's crazy that we don't even invest in these things. And I think off the back of that, people were like, oh, someone was saying, oh, they actually, pray about the hereafter a lot. I think they sent me some Instagram pages where they're actually in-depth prayers about it. I was like, oh, this is why it's good to talk. And then some people were actually like, I never do that. Like, anyway,
Mhm.
off the back of all of this, like, what became clear to me is that, and I think Mariam, you and I have talked about
Yeah.
even this journey to becoming a better Muslim,
Yeah.
right? On separate occasions. So what became clear to me was, look, most of us were in this phase of, oh, we want to be better Muslims, just as we want to be better people at work, we want to be better friends, we want to
Yeah.
connect to our creator better. And so we were like, okay, maybe we should create a group, maybe we should not create a group, maybe we should just remind ourselves of certain things. That let's even start with just morning and evening adkar. And
Yeah.
again, adkar is that kind of remembrance of God, remembrance of Allah. Like there are certain things you say, you praise God, and it just puts you in that phase of, again, important to know the meanings of what you're reading so
Mhm.
that you actually connect to these things. And words are very powerful, to be honest. Who created the group again? Was
I
it
did.
you? Exactly. So we were talking about it. I think.
The backstory of we going for
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Then so
Ife's
even when we
program.
had
Yeah.
Hajj, we saw this again. There's this scholar. Her name is Dr. Haifa
The other guys.
Eunice.
Yeah.
So even before going for Hajj, I'd been watching her videos. I really liked her videos about like preparing for Hajj as a woman, because you see a lot of content around her, but they are very centered around the men.
Well,
So
yeah.
she talked about things that pertain to us, like even like, oh, getting your periods when you are there, like how do you deal with
Mhm.
it, all of that. So when we were there, we just saw that she'll actually be coming to London for a program, and that program was around a pure art.
I still
So
here up.
immediately we booked it. Mariam, we someone reached out to you and we all booked it. And then when we came back home from Hajj, we all went for that program. Was it the weekend we got back or the week after? I
I
can't even
think
remember, but it was pretty early. And when we got there, again, that probably deserves a whole episode in itself.
thank
It
you.
just felt like everything we had all been feeling, everything we had been striving for, it felt like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is taking it to the next level. I think right there and then we were talking about even potentially signing up for classes,
Yeah.
all of that. But a first step that came out of it was you actually creating that group and us sending reminders to ourselves like morning at car, evening at car. And alhamdulillah, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone else, but I think for you, for me, there's definitely been that improvement in like,
Hmm.
on the train, maybe when we are going for work
Yeah.
or coming back, this is what we are saying in our mind. And for me, I found it really helpful to, first of all, feel more connected to my Lord, right? That's one. Secondly, it's taking me away from certain things that I don't want to do, like, I don't know, probably listening to some violent
Mhm.
rap music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things I learned from this is that, first of all, there are always going to be people trying to do similar things to you. They might be at different stages in their journey. There is power in leaning into like the collective. There are some days where maybe I've not remembered to do my like morning at car and I'm rushing, I'm running, maybe on the train. I now check my phone. I just see from my reminder to do this. I'm gonna start doing it right
Yeah.
there and then. Before I get to the office, like literally, I'm done. It doesn't take that much time. Uh, so it's just like at the end of the day, when you have goals that you want to reach, right? It probably benefits you to. I know some people say it's counterintuitive. Talk about it with some people that are close to you. You'll be surprised to find out that someone else trying to do that thing, and together you can actually achieve it a lot faster. It also feels easier than, oh, I'm going to do this all myself, do it all alone. Because
Mhm.
the moment when you lose motivation, right, who's going to be there to pick you up? No one. So very important to also try to do certain things as a collective. So that's one. Alhamdulillah for that. I guess like another example that I
So
can
before you move on to like the other example, I just wanted to put to just say something as well. So
yeah.
I saw something on Instagram once where so I follow a lot of and there will be a backstory to guide it that but I kind of follow a lot of people that are into interior, whatever, home
Interior decor.
life,
Mm-mm-mm.
professional living, all of that. So I follow this lady and she put up on her Instagram story once to say, um, so obviously like encouraging people to wash their dishes before going to sleep, ensuring their kitchen is clean before going to sleep.
Nice.
And probably one of the feedback she has been getting from people is they're like, they're always overwhelmed with the different chores, especially for people that have kids. Like, I have to put the kids to sleep, I have to do
Mhm.
dishes, I have to take out the trash and all of that. And she said something around every chore you are doing, like currently time them and see how much it takes
Long it's
to
taking
do.
you.
So if washing your dishes takes you 15 minutes,
Mhm.
like you've timed yourself and you know it's 15 minutes, on days when you're feeling low, that oh, I'm too tired to do my dishes before I go to sleep. Just remember at the back of your head, this thing will literally take me 15 minutes. Let me just stand up and do it. And
Mhm.
I think I've done that and it has worked for me. So I just
Mm.
want to link that to the morning at car and evening at car
Mhm.
thing. So, like you said, we commute to work in the train. You're actually in the train. There are sometimes you even be going on underground and you don't have network and you're just
Yeah.
sitting through
No
it and
pain.
you're not doing anything. So why not at that point do your askar at that point and you
Do
get the reward
something useful with the time.
after?
Mhm.
So yeah, there's that. There's also in the evening, probably when you're back from work, yes, you're tired, you're like, oh, okay, I need to do dinner, I need to do dishes and all of that. as they are doing dinner and doing dishes, you can be playing your Ascara and be following through and reading it. You've done two things with one stone,
Two
literally.
rewarding things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
So I think those kind of like intentional living and being intentional about it. So like you said, we have 24 hours in a day. How
Mhm.
many hours out of those 24 hours are you actually dedicating to worship, to personal development,
Or
to
Netflix.
living and all that? So
Go
yeah.
straight to Netflix. I love Netflix.
So yeah, I just wanted to drop that point. Yeah, you can tell us the other one you're going to mention as
Do we
well.
have time? Do we have time for that? Let me see. The thing is, I don't know how to tell short stories, but I'll try to wrap this up very quickly. So this other one is, in contrast, a goal about something in this world, not spiritual,
Well,
not
no,
only for the soul. So sometime last year, was it? Yeah, 2023. For people that are working in tech, like, a lot was going on. People were getting laid off left and right. And again, I work for a company in the well, I used to work for a company in the UK, a startup, a later stage startup.
no.
And I was on a work visa with them, right? Tier two visa, it's called. At this point, I'd been, what, 4 years in the country ish, almost 4 years. Anyway, for those that don't know, if you're on a work visa, you are kind of tied to the company. If they rescind your job or lay you off or whatever happens, you only have 60 days to get something else, or you have to leave the country, right? And again, for those that have listened to the first episode, right, this job I have, or this life I have, these opportunities I have, it's not just for me, right? I have a lot that leans on me as well. So I think in that time I was super worried about losing my job, not because I wasn't doing my job well, but because I was seeing people that are very good at their jobs left and right being laid off in different companies, right? And before that, last year, the year before, one of my friends, we had briefly talked about something called a technician, where you can actually get on a different visa. It's called the tier one visa, where you're not tied to a company and you have like very good rights of, you can start a business, you can even have a small startup, or you can work for other people. But the key thing was, you're not tied to a company, right? So you can even leave and change jobs very easily because of that. So at the time, I was just like, it's a good idea, but I just didn't. You
Fine.
know how laziness sometimes can
Yeah.
happen. But what I want to draw on here is that sometimes there will be a catalyst for something, for a goal that you probably should have set 1 year ago or 6 months ago. You're like feeling very about it. There's something will happen that will make it like important for you to do it there and then. So tech layoffs in 2023 was my villain origin story with in this whole thing. So I knew I didn't have a lot of time, because again, at this point my company had actually then announced that we were going to do redundancies. My particular role, senior engineer, I can't remember, we had a set number of people and they were going to try to reduce us down to a certain number as well. Which again, you are talking about people that are very smart, doing very well. So it's gonna be like, you literally don't know what will happen. So at this point, I was very afraid. But I had my like burning reason to start this. And again, for me, before I start things like this, I'm always like taking my troubles to God. So I was literally already praying about this, that, I don't know why all of this is happening, but I'm going to try to put in for this process that could mean I get a tier one visa. That would mean then that I'm not tied to a company and I can be free to do what I like. So what was the process? Literally for me was leaning on that person in my circle who had talked about getting the tier one visa themselves. Thankfully, this person was willing to help me um, read my essays, look at all my evidences that I was going to submit. Because if you're going to do technician, you're going to need recommendation letters from people you've worked with before, not just anyone, senior people. They need to know that the work you've done is with a product-led company and you've actually had impact. Um, and then you also have to have like pieces of evidences all written it could be some certification thing, it could be some publication, it could be awards, where you kind of show that, okay, you are a leader in tech. And so from that moment that I decided, there was like basically 3 weeks to get all of this done together. And this also means talking to people I hadn't spoken to in maybe months or years, like people I had worked with before, to get them to say, oh, okay, I'm going to write a letter for you, blah, 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 blah. So 3 weeks, I started, I think initially we just did a review of like what I plan to use in my evidence, who I plan to get the letters from, and then we moved some things around. I think from that first meeting, it felt real to me because I was like, oh wow, okay, we can use this, we can use this. Again, the person that helped me was super, super, super nice and very, very honest, brutally honest.
Shout out to the person.
Shout out to the person. I don't shout out to the person. So yeah, after that, like they also committed to like every Friday. So any new evidence or
Yeah.
letter I'd put together, we'll review it together. The person will leave comments. I would rework them, and then we'll say, okay, this one is ready, this one is ready. Anyway, we did that for 3 weeks. So we had the regular meetings on Friday, 1 hour, but sometimes we would overrun. And every day, literally every day, I was writing down things. I was either talking to someone to help me sign something, or basically everything I was living, eating, breathing at the time was this thing I was working on. Even my husband knew, like, we were all doing it together, to be honest. So very important to have that, again, someone you can lean into, or a community, or basically that can help you or guide you in this thing. I always say that you're not doing something that has never been done before. There will always be someone to lean on.
Yeah.
Again, since I love my Google Calendar, that calendar is very dear to me, because even when I forget, it's not forget, and it's just say a reminder I have this at this time. Very important, right? So that meeting I was having with the person every week was blocked there. The ones I was going to write my essays to after work every day, it was right there. So I can even go back if I want to and say, okay, evaluate how much time I spent on this. Well, according to the calendar, I even had like a Notion sprint for each task. Like I really went ham on this thing. So very important, again, to be very deliberate and plan. By week 1, I had gotten commitment from all of the people I needed to like write letters for. Sorry, to write letter for me for this. Like they were all on ground. Not that I was waiting till the week I was going to submit to say, please. So very important.
Yeah.
The scary part about this was after submission was when I now found a forum called this Tech Nation, whatever. I didn't find it before. And then I just twisted myself in knots, like reading the forum, seeing people get rejected, seeing some people get
Whoa,
it.
whoa.
No, it was a hellish wait for me, because I was swinging from, oh my God, okay, this person has similar profile to me and got it. Then I'll see another one that didn't
Yes,
get it. Then I'll run into my mind again and say, ah, God, please make me get it. Get that. Yeah, Allah, help me. You help me to submit a very, like what I thought was a solid distance, but now I'm not so sure anymore. So I was oscillating between, I'm going to get it,
I
or
know.
hey, this is a person that has similar profile to me, did not get it. I get, okay, God, it's you that brought me here anyway. I was going in that state constantly for 3 whole weeks.
Wow.
The funny thing was, someone else I knew at the same time, who the person who had helped me review also reviewed the application. The person got their response in 2 weeks. It was not like, hey, if it's taking this long, that means you're going to reject me. I think the day I actually got the notification that I got it, I was lying on the floor, overthinking as usual. Maybe I just observed Sola or something. I know I was lying down and I was talking to my husband that, God, this thing. I know I was still lamenting. I'm sure at that point he himself was tired, but he has no choice. He has to listen to me. So it was just to tell him that I should not worry. That's why I just felt maybe the vibration. I just put it. I saw home office Atlas.
Ooh.
Those who know home office Atlas. Once you see it, I was so scared to open it. When I opened it, I just saw that you been. I was so happy and so relieved. And To be honest, shout out to everyone who was involved, because I feel like not even just these people that helped me. Some of my friends saw the essays as well, and they were reading, and they were like, the ones that were praying for me were praying. Honestly, it was a very huge relief for me to get. And again, it goes back to, I think, what I said earlier, like, some things, if you don't do them when you're supposed to do them, something will force you to do them. You have less time to prepare for that thing. You're going to do it very fast. But if it's something that you still are deliberate about and you've invested the time in, you know, God willing, you're going to get it and you succeed at that thing. So if you like, run from all those things that you say you want to do. You've been saying you want to do fit farm for the last 1 year.
Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk
Jim
to
has not seen you. Don't worry. By the time your stomach is bigger than two people's stomach combined, you will go. So honestly, like, that was just jokes, but to be
me.
honest, like, this one, it really taught me the thing of, when you have the time and you feel
Yeah.
just do that thing, because it's going to come back. And again, as I said, it might not be the easiest thing for you to do, because all the while I was writing this, I was still expected to show up at work, do
Yeah.
my work perfectly, right? So I wasn't just going through emotional turmoil in my head about the impending layoffs. By the way, I didn't get laid off eventually, but at that point I was like, I was already free. Like, if they had laid me off, if not, but yeah, alhamdulillah, that was just a very crazy time where, again, Notion hated to see me like coming again at that time. My Google Calendar and I were like this. So yeah, being very deliberate about what your goal is, and just putting in the work. Again, no substitute. Mariam earlier, he said something like you spent 6 months or
Yeah.
so, and I was just like reminded of what I said in the last episode of, people always underestimate how much it takes to succeed.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
literally, this is not a joke, guys. We have to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just expect miracles happen, but I mean, you have to just
Absolutely. Like, there are some things that even you know that
yeah. To
this one
God.
is not. But at the end of the day, someone mentioned this at work. Like, sometimes people say words like overnight success, but that is as a result of some people doing
Yeah.
serious work every day, showing up constantly until
Exactly.
someone now notices that
Just
overnight. It's not overnight though. It's only overnight because no one else knew they were doing that thing all along. So
yeah.
yeah, may Allah make it easy for us. But
I
very
mean,
important to stay focused and set our goals and do what we have to do.
yeah. So I think to just summarize it, we've talked about like knowing what exactly the goals you want to achieve are. We've
Mhm.
talked about leveraging accountability partners, like you could probably find people around you that are also going through or also want to achieve similar goals. I just leveraging on that power of community. We've
Yeah.
talked about blocking time on your calendars to basically be able to achieve all of those goals. I have an interesting take to just kind of like exit, and I want to hear what you
Shoot
have
your take. Shoot your
what
take.
you have to say about it. So there's this, I don't know what, don't quote me anywhere. I don't know the source. I saw it. So people who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. The
Mhm.
simple act of putting pen to paper can make a significant difference in our ability to turn dreams into reality. I don't exactly write it down. I know it's in my head. So maybe I'm part of the 58%.
Yeah.
But I think either writing it down or making a note of it mentally, we just need to at the start of it know exactly what it is you are gunning for, prioritizing, working towards it, and eventually achieving it. So yeah, I don't really have any other thing and if I have to say to this.
So I guess like my controversial, well, not controversial, is that if you like, write the goal down. If you like, don't do the work. It will not happen. So I've seen something on Twitter like that says putting time on your calendar to do the work is not doing the work. Talking about the thing with your friends is not doing
Good
the work.
work. Hmm.
Put it on Twitter that you want to do it is not doing
Good
the
work.
work.
Yeah.
What is doing the work? Doing the work. That's all. That's all I will say about this.
Okay, yeah. So, thank you everyone for listening. So again, we would really love for your continuous support. So please share the podcast with your friends. Remember to follow us on all social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Twitter, we're on TikTok too. And if I'm not told you, we're on TikTok.
Oh my god, are you serious? I
Yeah.
feel like the part I struggle with the most is social media. But
So
anyway, if you say
yeah,
we're on
we
TikTok,
are on
we're on
TikTok,
TikTok.
we are on TikTok. We are global, we're
But
everywhere.
global, yeah, yeah. Slowly,
So
we're going to try to increase the social media presence.
yeah, yeah. So I pray that God continue to grant us the good in this world. Yeah,
I
we
mean,
also pray for the good in this world and also grant us the best in the hereafter. And for everybody that has one or two goals,
yeah. If
yeah,
you need motivation, send me an email. I will tell you why you should do that thing that you're procrastinating
exactly,
about.
exactly. If you are open to sharing your goals with us, let us know what you want to
Mhm,
achieve.
mhm.
I want to achieve fit farm, quote and unquote.
One day we should talk about the things we try to do and wearing quite a success. I feel like generally we see a lot of talk about the things that went well. Maybe
Yeah,
we should talk about those ones too.
yeah.
We'll
I
see.
think I'm just being lazy and lackadaisical about it, to be honest. So yeah,
All right.
have a very good,
Yeah.
good week.
See you
Yeah.
again next week.
Bye.